Well, hey all, and welcome back. I'm beyond excited. I was actually getting packed, getting ready to head out the door to go to TFCon, which I'm still heading in a couple hours. But this showed up. I ordered this a while back from the Show Z store, and you can check them out with the link below. And it actually got shipped to me a little bit ago, but then custom sent it back for some battery thing. I don't know exactly what. But then they reshipped it, and here we have it. And I am so excited. I am a gigantic fan of Metal Slug. I mean, I've gone as far. I have the Metal Slug history book. I've got the game on several consoles, well, like 4 consoles. Me and my kids have beat them all, and I'm just super excited. I mean, even if this was just the tank, I think I'd be pretty excited, but this does something pretty special. So this is officially licensed with SNK, and this company has actually done some model kits with them as well from the Samurai Showdown series. So let's go ahead and look at the packaging. We've got the SNK logos up here. We've got this nice little seal. We've got some pictures of the tank. So this is Metal Slug 2. Nice illustration at the top. And I'm a huge fan of the Metal Slug art style. I think it's some of the best sprites in the industry. So we've got that on the side. We've got that on the side. So if you haven't figured it out already, this also contains a robot. This is a Metal Slug that transforms into a robot. Now, there is a Metal Slug robot in the series, and this is not quite it. This is something new, and this is something awesome. So, let's go ahead and get out of the package and see if it's worthy of our collection. And here we have the Metal Slug out of the package, and it is a sight to behold. I guess there's one thing I need to point out before I get too far into it. Even though this was packed quite well, this was broken in the package. So, I'm going to reach out to Show Z. I mean, there's a chance it could be glued. I'm going to be careful with it to avoid knocking off any more. However, if during the transformation something goes wrong, something could go wrong. Outside of that, I'm absolutely in love with what we've got here. Even if this is all I got for the price point, I think this is pretty awesome considering it just looks so good. It's something I've always longed for, was a proper interpretation of the Metal Slug. So let's go ahead and get into some articulation. So this part does move back here. It's like a little antenna. We've got the rotating cannons here. They're actually pretty stiff. We have this nice bronze paint on there. There's actually wheels that can roll. The tracks do not move, but they look great. They're very, very faithful to the design. I think, and there's something about this track design I've always loved, this sort of claw-like sense to it. There's so much character in the way they design their mechs. So we also have the searchlight that can move up and down, and the turret can move up and down. And we have some pistons in there that move along with it. And we can actually pop it up a little bit to get it further because we have all that character. Now, it might have been cool if these tracks could actually bend in the middle a little bit, but that would probably counter the transformation this does. But as just an interpretation of Metal Slug, this is awesome. It's got some weight to it. It looks real good, but there's one other thing. So we have H, which is a weapon pickup that you would get in the game, but it's designed where if you take it, see if we can do it, it turns on an LED. It uses a little magnetic system in there to activate that. And to pop this off, this just pops out and the LED's back there and you can change out the battery. It's quite simple. But yeah, that was not necessary, but it just makes it even cooler, the fact that it works like that. We'll just turn it off. So simple. Now when it comes to scale, it's like, what would I even compare this to? So I grabbed just a couple random things. We've got G1 Optimus Prime. We have Siege Optimus Prime. So you can see he's getting close to that, it's getting close to that just as a tank. And then we have the old Bigfoot, which who knows if anybody collects that, but I've got it. And so that just shows you an idea of what the vehicle scales with. All right, and here we have him fully transformed. And let's be honest, there are some good things and some bad things about this figure. I'm gonna give you the bad things first. First of all, The instructions actually are kind of terrible. They're not in English. For the most part, I can follow them. They get a little bit sketchy towards the end, and the parts are kind of tight. So I believe this figure is fully painted, and it looks great, but you're going to run the risk of scuffing some paint. Also, you'll notice I have the chest cannon out. I'm sure it can be transformed, but two things about that. One, I wasn't able to quite get it the way I wanted. And two, I actually like the chest cannon out. It feels much more Metal Slug to me. It reminds me of the actual Metal Slug mech unit. And to me, I kind of rather just keep it that way. Before we get anything else, there's two things I want to talk about. One, size. So you saw him with the Optimus Prime vehicle mode before. Now you can see him with the robot mode. He's a big figure. This is something that is definitely masterpiece scale. And just since we had that earlier, you can see him with Siege Optimus Prime. Get these out of the way. As I said, there was some bad, and I pointed it out. But beyond that, I'm actually really loving this figure. So we have the magnet thing here, or we have the on switch here. And as you can tell, he actually has some LEDs in his face. Now we have this really interesting face mask here that actually reminds me of a Transformers figure, but it is just a single piece and it folds up, and we have a mono eye, which really feels more in vein with the Metal Slug series. I do kind of wish this detached, but I think it's fine as is, and it does give you options for two different faces. But it's not a very expressive face because it's really just a shield, and it only has the sense of a face because of the way the light shines through. But you actually can kind of adjust it a little bit to where it looks a little bit better. But I think that's probably a low point, but I do like the mono eye. I do think a ring of metallic paint around that eye would have been an improvement. It would have tied it in with the rest. Other things I really like, it's got a die-cast skeleton. I mean, you can see the die-cast here in the shoulders and the hips. It's a pretty heavy-duty figure, but the transformation, the instructions didn't help, but also everything is so close, and you just got to be careful so you don't scuff the paint. I'm going to be out of town for TFCon, but if you guys want to see a transformation video, now that I've done it, most of it anyway, I can come back and maybe do one if there's enough requests for it. But let's go on to articulation. We've got these rotating shoulders, these bits up here. The cannons rotate just like they did in gun mode. The head has a little bit of movement to it, but it's actually not a lot. We have shoulders. So the shoulder pads themselves actually can fold out. And then underneath, we have a very heavy ratchet for the shoulder. Shoulder can move out. We have a double jointed elbow. We have, now aesthetically, this is actually one thing that I might consider a gripe, but I think it's fine for the most part, is the way the tracks hang down. I think I would have liked to seen those kind of just fold up all the way behind here into a ball or something. The fingers are really neat. So we have this rotating hand, and it does bend in a little bit, but not a lot. We've got fingers. The trigger finger is separate, and it bends. But what I thought was interesting is this thumb. If we can get a closer shot of the thumb here. So it is on a ball joint and a hinge, which gives it a little bit of expressive motion there. We have an ab crunch, which is very surprising and also very cool. Rotation at the hip, very tight joint. Clickety-click there, clickety-click there. Very heavy ratchets. Single, actually it is a double knee, but the track's kind of obscure where that comes in. We have movement at the foot, a little bit forward and back, not a whole lot, but we have a pretty decent tilt, so you can still get enough good poses. But even with my minor gripes, this thing's really awesome. I'm really glad I got it. I like the LED feature, especially since it's so easy to turn on and off. I wish more things did this. Transformation's a little tricky. Be careful with the paint since it's a fully painted figure. Quality seems really nice. It is unfortunate about that antenna, but that's still, it is what it is. I don't think it really is the end of the world, even if I can't get replaced, but I'm gonna see if they can fix that for me. If not, I'll just glue it on there or whatever. But being a huge fan of Metal Slug, I do think this is really in the spirit, and even if it doesn't transform, I don't know which mode I'm gonna keep it in. It's not something I wanna transform often, so what I'm probably gonna do is leave it in a robot for a while. Once I get bored with that, I'm going to put it in Metal Slug mode and probably leave it that way from there on out, just because I love having such a nice, accurate representation of Metal Slug in my collection. So anyway, let us know in the comments below if this is worthy of your collection. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you all next time.